So we just rolled those up onto the reel seat. Again, they're tight, but now that we got them up on there, we just want to roll them up on so that they're on the reel. And again, it's nice and tight. It's not going to go anywhere. So hey guys, been a huge KastKing fan for a long time. I do a lot of bass fishing up here in central Wisconsin. Super excited this year when they came out with their new line, specifically for ice fishing, and it's the Konvert. I've been using this for, probably been out on a dozen trips with it. Great rod. I teamed it up with a Centron 500 spinning reel from KastKing, and what I wanted to do this go around is we've got the rod, we've got the reel, and we got some line. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the rod and the reel, spool it up, show you how I do it. Pretty fast, simple way. We're not fishing for blue marlin or anything like that, so we don't need to worry about getting spooled on the line. So I'm going to show you how I spool that up in just a second. Now we're over at the bench. First, let's take out the Centron. This is the spinning reel that I like to use. It's a size 500, so it's a great size for ice fishing. This reel holds about 240 yards of 4-pound test and probably 150, 160 yards of 6-pound test. On this particular setup, we're going to put 4-pound test on it. That's probably the heaviest that I like to use when I'm ice fishing, but for this particular application, it'll be the right pound test line. So when you get the reel, you can either make it left or right-handed. We're going to leave it left. You just tighten up this nut on this side. That tightens up the handle. You can feel it snug in on this side. And that's pretty much it on that as far as getting it set up to put it on the rod. We'll set that aside. Let's grab the rod. This is the Konvert. It's the new rod that comes. It's pretty cool. It's 2 pieces. So you've got the butt section and then you have 2 tips. You've got a medium light tip and a medium tip. For pan fishing, I prefer the medium light tip. If you're using it on, say, a tip down or something like that, you can get away with the medium tip. But let's go ahead and take a look at what we've got going on here. Sometimes it's best not to pull on the tips, so sometimes you're better off just opening the one end and pulling it and getting it started. So when you get this out, what you're going to find is you're going to get your butt section, 2 tips, and then a couple of rubber rings to hold the reel on. I'm going to get some of this other stuff out of our way so we can focus on the rod. So we'll take a look at this. It's taped together when it comes from the factory. Keep it all nice and safe in shipping. First, you'll have your butt section. Comes with 2 rubber rings, and those are what you secure the reel onto the handle with, and I'll show you how that works in a bit. And then you get the medium light tip, that's this tip, and then you get the medium tip. The only real difference in the tips is up here at the very tip, is the thickness and how sensitive the rod is. You can see how it flexes a little different. If I flex it here and I flex this one with about the same, you can see how much lighter it is. KastKing gives you a couple of extra grommets in case one breaks or you have issues that way. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to pick our tip that we want. We selected the medium and we're going to insert that into the handle base, which is just real simple, slides right in. Just get the eyes on here. You don't really need to line them up with anything because we're going to line them up when we put the reel on. So now what I went ahead and did ahead of time is take the rings that were up here, and you can see how the butt is tapered, the cork, and that's why you can roll these up on there. I'm not going to lie to you, they're hard to get up on there, but you want them tight because they're going to hold your reel on. So again, we don't need to worry about lining up the eyes right now too much. We're just going to go ahead and get the reel seated onto the rod. And to do that, we just simply take the reel, slide these grommets apart a little bit. I like to have the reel up towards the front a little bit. It gives you a little bit better balance when you're jigging. Lay the reel onto the cork handle like this, and then you just simply roll the grommets up onto the reel. And again, like I said, it's not the easiest thing in the world to do, but you want them tight. So we just rolled those up onto the reel seat. Again, they're tight, but now that we got them up on there, we just want to roll them up on so that they're on the reel. And again, it's nice and tight. It's not going to go anywhere. So now that we have the reel on the handle, now we can go ahead and line up the eyes coming off of the reel properly so we're all set up. So that's it. That's how you attach the reel to the new Konvert ice fishing rod. Next step is to put some line on this baby. So we're going to move on to spooling this up. And like I said earlier, this thing will hold over 200 yards at 4-pound test. So we're not going to spool the entire thing with 4-pound test. So you can see here I've got a spool of KastKing Fluorocoat 4-pound. It's the 150-yard spool, and I'm actually going to use this to spool up 2 rods. So we're going to set that aside. And what I'm going to do now is I've got some heavier KastKing line that I've got left over. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill the spool up quite a ways with this before I even put the 4-pound test on so that we can use less of the 4-pound test on the reel. Keep in mind, you're ice fishing, you're probably not going to be fishing more than 25 or 30 feet. You don't need that much of the primary line on the reel. So the first thing we're gonna do is go ahead and get this thing started with the heavier line. All right, so we've got the line ran through the eyes of the rod. So what we're gonna do now is I like to just bring it through the bail. And then usually what I do is I open up the bail. I just take the line and I put an overhand slip knot in it. And that's all I do. And then I use that to tighten it up onto the spool. I've got the slip knot in here. I just drop that over the spool. Pull on your main line to tighten that up around there. And that'll just tighten it up around the spool. So you get that tight on there. I'll take a pair of scissors and cut off that tag end. I can go ahead and close the bail and go ahead and reel this up. So we've got the line started on here. I just put my hand up in the front a little bit to put a little tension on it, and then we'll go ahead and get it reeled on. All right, so we've got some backing on here now. You can see that I ran it up to maybe a quarter of an inch or so from the edge of the spool, but that'll give us backing, and now we won't use as much of our 4-pound test line that we're gonna put on there. So now we're gonna make this really easy because we're not worried about getting spooled off and all that type of stuff. No fancy knots here. You know, sometimes when I tie line to a main line, a backing to a main line on my summer rods, because I'm casting, I'll use a double uni knot or something like that. So in case I would get spooled, I've got a strong knot there so I don't lose my catch. But in this case, guys, look, I don't need to get into fancy knots. We're just gonna do a simple overhand knot in this to tie the 17 to the 4-pound test. We're gonna pull that tight and we're gonna cut the tag end off. And again, it makes it simple, and there's really no reason to tie double unis and all that kind of stuff when you're ice fishing. So now that we've got that on, we're gonna go ahead and spool that up. So now we went ahead and we put our 4-pound test line on, and you can see that we are about a 1/16 of an inch from the edge of the spool. Guys, that's gonna give you enough line fishing in 25, 30 feet of water that you can fish all year long with this line. It'll work just fine, especially pan fishing. If you guys are out using some of the stuff for walleye fishing, using a little bit heavier line, you may not want to use backing. So that's it, guys. That's how we set up the new Konvert ice rod with the KastKing Centron 500 reel. All right, guys, that's it. Awesome deal from KastKing. They've got the reel, they've got the line, and they've got the rod. The new Konvert rod, the 500 series Centron reel, and you're ready to roll. It's fantastic. So get out on the ice, catch some fish, take a kid fishing, take a friend fishing, have a great time. Here's a little tip for you guys. When you're ice fishing, you got all kinds of different jigs you're using and a lot of different colors, and you can see they're small, and you're using light line and it's cold out. It makes it hard to tie knots. So what I like to use, just a real quick tip, are these little clips. A number of different bait companies make these, and it's just a nice little clip. And instead of having to retie your jig on every time, you just simply can snap it on the line, and they work awesome.
Subscribe to the KastKing YouTube channel too. Learn new fishing tips and fishing hacks. Watch how-to fishing videos and fishing gear comparisons. See new KastKing fishing tackle reviews. Hear interviews with fishing personalities. Enjoy a constant flow of new content from the KastKing Pro team. Don't miss announcements about these topics. Subscribe now to youtube.com/KastKing. Click the subscribe button below.